So the other day, I was online researching inexpensive dupes to popular cameras because, let's be honest, some of these cameras are really expensive and I wanted to see if I could find more affordable options for you guys. When I came across a suspiciously familiar looking camera all over my YouTube feed, the Xtra Muse. So I started looking into it to see if I could buy it for myself to test it out when I realized that it was exclusively available on American Amazon. I live in Canada and it was just completely missing from the Canadian version of Amazon, which is pretty unusual because generally we have pretty much the same products. So I kept digging and what I found was pretty surprising. I don't think this is an Osmo Pocket 3 ripoff. I think this is an Osmo Pocket 3, just in disguise, which is a fascinating story all on its own. But more importantly, you might be wondering, should you buy it? It's over $100 less and practically identical to one of the most popular cameras ever sold. The answer is a bit more complicated than you might think. When I say these cameras are basically identical, I really mean it. When I first saw this camera, I was shocked at how similar it was to the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. And then once I ordered it and unboxed it for myself, I was even more confused. Like, how could this exact of a dupe possibly exist without DJI suing this company into the ground? They have the exact same mini gimbal, though the Xtra Muses is silver while the Osmo Pocket 3 is a matte black. They have a slightly different grip texture on the back, but it has the same effect. They've got that same iconic flip screen that turns the camera on and off. The buttons are in the exact same position, and they take the same accessories. For the most part. We'll come back to that later. And their user interfaces are pretty much exactly the same with just a few aesthetic changes.
It's interesting, like the interfaces are different. They use different icons, different fonts.
Just a reskin. Like the difference here truly is surface level. As soon as you start diving into the menus, you'll notice that they have pretty much identical options in the same order. And it even will give you the same confirmation and error messages, like with the exact same wording. And the footage from each camera is indistinguishable from one another. When I first started testing it out against the Osmo Pocket 3, I thought the colors were maybe slightly different. I think this is gonna be really hard to tell because I'm filming a screen. It's looking like my skin tone on the Osmo leans a little more pink and my skin tone on the Xtra leans a little bit more yellow. I don't know if it's a display thing or if it's like truly the colors are a slight bit different. But now that I'm reviewing them like actually on my computer, yeah, they're identical. Maybe the screens looked a little bit different in person, but now that I'm reviewing these after the fact and looking through all these test clips that I shot, I honestly cannot see any difference between the footage on the Xtra Muse and on the Osmo Pocket 3. The gimbals track my face the same way, the low light performance is the same, and the audio straight out of camera even sounds the same. Here's a little audio test. This is what it sounds like out of the Osmo, and this is what it sounds like out of the Xtra Muse. Here we are. This is demonstrating the low light capability of both cameras. What do you think? I would say they look identical. This eerie level of similarity has caught the attention of other creators, reviewers, and the FCC too, leading to accusations that this is not in fact a dupe camera from an American startup competitor, but actually the same exact camera sold by the same company, just under a different name. But why? Look, no matter what camera you're filming on, there's one thing that you absolutely cannot skip out on if you want to make high quality videos for YouTube, and that's B-roll. And when you don't have the time, skills, or equipment to get the shots that you want for your video, that's where Storyblocks comes in. I've been using Storyblocks for years now to get stock media assets for my videos, from professional 4K stock footage to animation templates, background music, and sound effects. I can download them all for one simple monthly subscription. Storyblocks is adding new content to their library all the time, so you don't have to worry about getting bored or not being able to find what you need, and it's all royalty free, so you're free to use it in your YouTube videos and your content across social media, and you won't get content ID'd. It's truly such an asset for creators who want to increase the quality of their videos. So if you want to check it out, head to storyblocks.com/Katie or click the link in the description to get started with unlimited stock media assets for one simple monthly price. And as always, thanks to Storyblocks for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's get back into the investigation. So while these cameras are virtually identical, their pricing is not. Right now, the list prices on Amazon for the Xtra Muse, it's $699 USD, and for the Osmo Pocket 3, it's $799 USD. When the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 launched in October of 2023, it was $519 USD. And it stayed that price up until April of 2025, when after a series of bumps, it landed at its current price of almost $800. Now, if we extend the graph out to the end of the year, we do see a little bit of a drop for Black Friday, but that regular list price, like not on sale, still pretty much $800. Now, I do think it's important to note, up until April of 2025, the camera was pretty much universally $519 USD. So notably, it was the same price on both American and Canadian Amazon. So to summarize, since April, if you buy the Osmo in the States, it's been $799 USD, but if you bought it on Canadian Amazon, you'd still be able to get it for its original price of about $514 USD. Okay, now let's talk about the Xtra Muse, which actually only launched in October of 2025. Now, while its official list price is $699, it's almost always been available for cheaper than that, usually around the $549 mark, getting as low as $419 for Black Friday, which is like off my chart. So the gag is, while the Xtra Muse is currently cheaper than the Osmo Pocket 3, it's still more expensive than the Osmo was back in just January of this year. So why did the price of the Osmo Pocket 3 go up so steeply this year? And how can Xtra afford to sell an identical camera for so much less? The answer to both of these questions is also the answer to why the company Xtra exists at all, and it comes in two parts. First, the price increase we've seen so far. DJI is based in China and therefore has been subject to tariffs, which is a tax paid by importers that then gets passed on to consumers in the final retail price. DJI has to pay more to import their products into the US, so they increase the sale price of their products for the end consumer. You can see this so clearly in how the price of the Osmo Pocket 3 has stayed the same in Canada, which has not imposed new tariffs, compared to how it's increased in the US, which has. But there's more to the story than just tariffs and price increases. I mean, I'm holding a full-out copycat camera right now. What's up with that? Well, it all comes back to Section 1709 of the National Defense Authorization Act for the fiscal year 2025. This piece of legislation requires that DJI receives a security audit by December 23rd, 2025. And if they don't get this audit, or the audit comes back deeming DJI a security risk to the US, then the sale of DJI products will be banned in the United States. Not just drones, but any DJI product that includes a radio transmitter specifically, aka anything that's Bluetooth or Wi-Fi enabled, which is all other products pretty much. So why is the United States government concerned about DJI? Well, DJI is a Chinese company that some speculate has ties to the Chinese government, a stigma that the company has been fighting for a long time now. In fact, in September of 2024, they sued the US government over being put on a list of Chinese military companies, though in October of 2025, they lost that court case, even though US District Court Judge Paul Friedman cannot conclude that DJI is indirectly owned by the Chinese Communist Party. Still though, he found that the Department of Defense can put them on that list anyway because they want to. Basically, some American lawmakers are concerned that DJI is using their products, their drones specifically, to spy on the United States, even though there's never been any concrete evidence presented to back this claim up. Now here's the thing, DJI has publicly stated that they want this security audit to take place. It seems like they feel like they have nothing to hide, and this is kind of their opportunity to finally prove their innocence and get off of these watch lists. However, no approved agency has come forward to take up the task of performing this audit, and so it hasn't happened yet, even though the deadline now is a couple weeks away. Now, before people in the comments start accusing me of being a shill for China for low-key defending DJI in this video, to be clear, my argument here is not that China is a perfect country and we should never be skeptical of what their government is doing. Most certainly not. But what I am saying here is there has been skepticism in the US over DJI and their connection to the CCP for years now, and to my knowledge, there has never been any concrete evidence brought to the table to justify that skepticism. And I'm just of the opinion that I think laws should be made based on evidence, not on xenophobia. Also, I feel like I should be transparent here and just say, yes, I have been sponsored by DJI in the past, but that is really not impacting the opinions that I'm sharing in this video. Obviously, I'm a fan of DJI products. I use them all the time. But if I was gonna let that impact the opinions that I'm sharing with you in this video, honestly, I probably wouldn't have made it at all, because I don't really think DJI wants you to know what I'm about to share with you next. So here's the theory about this new company called Xtra. To get around this looming ban, DJI has been creating front companies to sell their products in the US under different branding from companies registered in Delaware, which as a state is notorious for having business-friendly laws that make it really easy for foreign companies to set up registration in the US and pay very little taxes. There's Xtra for the Pocket and action cams, and Sky Rover for DJI's drones. This is why these products are only available on American Amazon, why these exact dupes can exist and DJI is not suing the pants off these companies, and it's why they can be cheaper. Not only are they avoiding tariffs because they're being sold by a US-based company, but my personal theory would be they're maybe also selling them for a slightly smaller profit margin to try to build trust with their US customer base and get them shifted over from purchasing from DJI to purchasing from these new front companies. This is DJI's play to keep their US customers if and when this ban goes into place at the end of December. All of the complicated politics and economics of the situation aside, the question remains, should you buy it? The reality is it's the same exact camera, and you can get it for cheaper if you happen to live in the US. There is one caveat to all of these similarities though, and that is that the Xtra Muse is not compatible with DJI's Bluetooth microphones. Even though the menus are otherwise identical, right where you think you'd find the option to connect your wireless mics, it's just missing on the Xtra Muse. It's not just that you can't connect DJI microphones, like even other third-party microphones. There's just no way to connect Bluetooth lav mics to this camera. This is what the audio sounds like just walking down the street, straight out of the Xtra Muse. There's noises around, but yeah, hopefully this gives you a sense of it. And to give you a comparison, this is what the audio sounds like. I've got the DJI Mic Mini connected to the Osmo now, so you can hear it's just a lot more crisp and clear, and like there's music playing in the background. Hopefully that's not too loud for you. Especially holding it up to your mouth like this is, you know, a really great way to get good audio without having to like yell at the camera while you're out in public. So to me, that is a huge downside of the Xtra Muse. If you're genuinely considering it as a cheaper alternative to the Osmo, something to keep in mind. I'll be honest, I think this is a pretty major drawback because when you're out vlogging, especially in noisy circumstances, the lav mics make a really big difference. But if you're not that concerned about audio, or if you anticipate that you'll always be filming at home or like in controlled environments where it's not too noisy, then it might just be a good option for you. The footage is literally identical, and so is the experience of using the camera. One thing to consider though is there is a lot of speculation that DJI is going to be releasing an Osmo Pocket 4 soon, which could lead to a price decrease on the Osmo Pocket 3, making it, in my opinion, the more obvious choice. That being said though, even if they do release the Osmo Pocket 4, there's no guarantee that it will be released in the US. Earlier this year, the new Mavic 4 drone came out and they didn't even bother releasing it in the United States. So you never know. If DJI doesn't release one, there might just be an extra version of it though. Also, just to be super clear, this is not relevant to anybody that lives outside of the United States. If you live in Canada like me, just buy the Osmo Pocket 3. First of all, I had to pay USD to get this camera and I'd have it shipped from the States, so definitely it is not worth it. Just buy the Osmo. But I know the majority of my audience are Americans, so just so you know, I bought this camera and made this whole video for you guys, so I hope this was helpful. Honestly, as I was researching this video, I really kept wondering, like, do people still care about the Osmo Pocket 3? Like, this camera was so viral about a year ago, but I feel like people aren't talking about it as much, so it's obviously still a really high quality camera for creators. It just doesn't seem to be in the discourse as much. About a year ago, I made a slightly controversial full review of this camera, and I'm gonna be honest, some of my opinions have shifted and changed since then. You can watch that review here, but let me know in the comments if you'd like to see an updated version of it or some of my more recent thoughts about this little guy, or if you'd rather get videos on other cameras instead, because I love testing out cameras and talking about them, so let me know. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you're having adventures and following your dreams, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!